G'day guys, so Rosehill Saturday the 4th of June, quick review, heavy 10 with rain during the day. Amazingly meeting went ahead, so it's a bit of a funny meeting going forward where a lot of tired horses are going to come out of this meeting and probably need a few weeks off, so be very careful with the form coming out of the meeting, but we'll go through it quickly. The first race was for the 2-year-olds over the 1200. Pretty steady tempo and a pretty steady race it looks like. I don't think many of these horses were suited, and it's pretty tough to be harsh on many of them going forward, but have a quick look. Majority was a bit of an easing favourite late, with the other favourite Non-Peril was coming out not long before the race. Majority had the sort of fitness base, it had a preparation before, so it's probably the one that you'd expect to run well under the conditions. It does look to have a few quirks with its action, which may have played against it. Majority leads easy enough. I just want to highlight the ride on Palladian. No idea why they'd show urgency on it to push forward on such other conditions. And my favourite thing, to jam a horse out and then restrain it out of the race, basically, even though he gets beat along by Palladian. Very strange ride. I think the horse outside the leader here in Orleans certainly not suited today, but he's one to sort of keep an eye on in the future. He's a big, strong thing that would not suited by the track. The winner, Henrik Rader, the track's the winner everywhere. Palladian's had the hardest run you've ever seen. Belays had the suck and had the benefit of a run it's going to, and the preparation before, so these are the two best prepared horses for the race. And they understandably run well. Henry, the creator, just coming off of Wyong maiden win, and it does a really good job to stick in here where he could have easily turned it up, and this obviously ends up being a bit of a, I don't think there was much difference across the track, but out wide did seem to play a little bit firmer. Not much to be learned as far as I'm aware. Henry the Creator is obviously a nice horse to deal with these conditions at its second start and get through them. Majority every possible, and so was Brulé. Forgive Orleans, and certainly forgive Palladian. That could be the end of some of their preps. That run will really take it out of those horses. Tough to back them at their next starts. Second race, Ravi. Nudie Rudy was a surprising favourite for mine, didn't really have much depth to its form at all. Lucky Fish solidly backed. Wider Claim again, maybe they thought the wet track may help it, but not much depth to its form, and Kiara Lay and these horses were not suited. A horse that I'm quite keen on going forward as a horse's last witness. Fortunately misses the start again here, which takes away its chances. The winner, Ravi's obviously come back with two big wins. Strange ride, Thorsborn. Don't know why. Anyway, this is a funny day where they go quite hard here. But Noble Joey's basically, stepping up in trip, and that's its sort of go to race forward. I did want to point out again, Ravi doesn't have much luck at all early after being up much closer. Last witness out the back. And he just keeps having to drag her back where you just rather him sitting there more comfortable, keeping the horse comfortable, but she's definitely not had the best of luck early, Ravi, on a day where it was tough to run on from a long way back, even if these horses sort of were distance queries and the fast pace did help. I thought this horse was probably ready to improve. Positive Charge and shows a lot. It was very green, just didn't look to handle the ground at all. Lucky Fish, no luck, but don't think it made a lot of difference. And Ravi, after being dragged out of the race, sustains a long run, as does the Last Witness. And Nudie Rudy's the one with every chance. These two, even though they've had pace to help, have sort of defied a bit of a pattern. They've got out to the best part of the track. No knock on Noble Joey, who did have the pattern but went a bit quick and has run well, at an unsuitable distance. So it's probably the one, even though it's got a bit of a gap behind it, that's the least impressive run in the race. Acceptable runs from all three. Ravi's done a really good job, as has Last Witness. And Lucky Fish is a forgive, not much luck back, not where it wanted to be. And Positive Charge is the other one I'd sort of forgive out of the race. Obviously Chiarole hasn't handled the conditions and can be forgiven as well. Ravi's obviously a very nice horse and developing, improving. Last Witness is an underrated horse. Noble Joey, back to its right grade over its right trip. Will be a nightmare to run down. I think Lucky Fish can improve sharply. Race 3, and I won't spend much time on this race. The Highway. I would be a little concerned on the form if we just go back. I was a little keen on Dashy Deluxe, and it gets beat 35, just pulled out of the race. Stratum Siren's given an horrific ride after missing the kick, goes hard fence at $6, like it was an easing favourite. Pure Choice is ridden quite hard, and the pace is really strong here. $480 favourite, and they're basically all out of the race, so that there's just no merit in this race whatsoever from where I can see. The winner's obviously just way too strong for them and gets to the right part, but I'd be very concerned about the form going forward out of this race.
First attempt on lane effective going.
Not much has really happened to this point. Winner comes to the middle, well ridden. The early favourite, easing favourite, hard fence, out of business. The eventual favourite who did lead at a fast tempo on the inside here. Pure Choice. Dashy Deluxe has lost his action, he drops out, gets beaten 35. And these horses all run the two placings, the other placing, Bella Metallica, Falco. These are all almost enough runs, but had everything to suit. I'd rather be negative on these horses than positive, even under the conditions. Just a nothing race. It's really hard to learn much from. Nothing really finishes off better than it should. Just a yuck race. Race 4, and this did look a bit of a match race. I was hoping that Ins and Out would sort of take a sit and let the others dictate the pace and allow him to try and out sprint them, but the bottomless conditions were probably the sealing fate for him, even though he had a really strong class edge and profiled nicely to out sprint these. I thought this is just amazed me when they went quick early. I hoped he'd flop out and just sort of let Marinostro cross to the front, and he'd eventually, take his time to cross outside him. They end up going out quite hard, which is disappointing for Ins and Out followers. He does continue to sort of let them roll, but unfortunately that played into the hands of the winner as much as anyone, especially with the pattern. He does get out to the best part of the track, but he's never really going to hold Marinostro off in a dogfight over 1400 on that bottomless track. I certainly wouldn't say he's a non-winner at this point, Ins and Out. he doesn't shirk his task here. He's had basically everything he could possibly have against him, and this horse has had everything it could have in its favour. And he's run it to a length, so different conditions. I think he was an immoral, and I don't think he's turning it up. Marinostro's going well, but won't find anything better suited than that race for him going forward on a sort of horse, but tough to pull too much out of that race again. What you saw is what you got. The first race of the day where they actually control the tempo up in front, and Kellyville Fly sits outside Dynamic Rock, is beaten a long way. The betting said that no one really knew what was going on. Pindan Pearl, started a pretty solid favourite. Surprise for the money for Lyxena. It was a bit of a distance query after winning a slow pace race that Dynamic Rock also came out of last start, and they looked like they were the two that you sort of could pen without too much trouble. Twice was also a bit of a distance query.
Righto, thanks, Caroline. We've got 4 to
And I was surprised how close it was to the pace, actually. It was quite a good ride. See, much less urgency to cross here, and they just settle nicely. Kobe does a good job on the eventual winner, Kellyville Fly, to not bustle her to get up there and attack, and just lets her get comfortable in the conditions. Hidden Pearl's always in a bit of a dicey spot here, and probably one of the runs of the day, Highland Lady, settling second last behind the slow speed. Kobe does well to sort of wind them up nice and early and sustains the sprint, which she can do. She had some distance form behind her and some wet track form. Harlem Lady's put in a really strong sprint and probably peaks, which she's entitled to do. It continues to battle away. Like, that's a really strong effort for mine. Probably the run of the day against the pattern, against the pace. Ty doesn't have much luck and pretty average ride probably, but what's he going to do there? He's in a bit of a tough spot when they've walked and he's got nowhere to go. Probably should have tried to get around the heels of them there, but it doesn't look like a spot. He just hasn't had a lot of luck. Mimi's been out, sprinted a little bit and run well. Swift Lady's done as well as she could. They've all basically had their chance. The ones up the front anyway, these guys have had to beat a bit of a slow pace, so their efforts are good. And, no knock on Kellyville Fly, sat outside the leader and she's strong to the line, so I'd like to see these two drop back in trip. Pindan Pearl's probably going to be competitive in whatever she goes in. Harlem Lady's ready to win if she gets better conditions to suit back markers, or she gets a draw where she can settle a little bit handier. I'd also like to see Mimi back in trip. I don't think she's I think she's a sort of 1200-1400 metre horse. What about this
Rosehill.
race here? Okay. So Rogie starting $2.90 favourite at, was it the fourth run into its first preparation? Fifth run, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth run into its first preparation. Stepping 1,011, 12, 14 up to 1,500 now on a heavy 10 on the back up for a 3-year-old gelding in his first preparation. The money that came for this horse was amazing, especially considering an on-pace horse with an apprentice aboard and a noted leader with a noted leading jockey that doesn't like to give up the front. It was a bit of a strange race. The horse didn't profile to get the right run, to run well, especially considering up in distance with the heavy conditions, and I was amazed by the betting. There are a couple of unlucky runners and a couple of huge runs in this race. Obviously, notably to Buy and Styles, one to have a look at turning, but did have like a mad fight. They've gone out insanely fast here, and so this horse was entitled to get home from the back, just like So Willie. Like, it's just a massive flattering of you won't. It's a horse to be very wary of going forward. Watch for D'Ampagno, who rides this horse well enough, more than fabulous, but just goes way too early on it, considering the extremely fast pace, and just knocks up the last part, which he's really entitled to. This horse, Classic Uniform, is entitled to just faint at the 600 and somehow keeps going, second up from a spell. His effort, he's had one run back over 1200, 5 weeks between runs, including a scratching at the barriers, and gone straight to a heavy, run on this track where they've gone 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he gets beat 2 lengths, and he's still there bobbing, with at the finish. It's insane how well he's gone, and hopefully doesn't flatten him for the rest of his preparation. Triple Snitz is another really solid run, not having a lot of cover. So there's some good horses, good runs to look at. Yeah, go through the race.
Following an earlier ride, Supply.
I think this will be one of the better form races, but you have to be careful which ones you pick out because of this insanely fast pace. So Surge on the inside, Rogish drawn out wide with Adkins. Both of them hunt out. Why Adkins would try and hunt for the lead, I've got absolutely no idea. And Surge was just never going to give it to him. So there wasn't great homework done here, I wouldn't imagine. Triple Snitz, who was in the firing line earlier, you'll see him drift back a little bit and run really well. Here's the eventual winner. Divine Styles, the one here in the American sort of colours to watch the interference that happens to him. D'Ampagno settled in a good spot here. She's ridden the race really well early and ends up in a perfect position. Triple Snitz wide and chasing. Seeking Asylum also wide but with cover. These horses are all madly pace affected. So in the end of it, you see Rogish beaten a long way. Rogish gets beaten 6.5. On Top gets beaten 17 lengths. Supply and Demand gets beaten 6. This horse only gets beaten 2. He's probably had this, one of the harder runs in the race. So this is where I would have liked to see Deanne just wait. You can't really knock her. She's got there nice and early. She's probably thought the horse is travelling strong enough. She just went a touch early on a horse that's not known for finding the line, and unfortunately, So Willie's the benefactor of just a mad speed up front. But we'll go back and have a quick look at Dubai Style here. So he's the winner, cutting up the inside, stays out of trouble. Here's Dubai Style, searching for a gap. Thinks he finds one, but these horses are all laying out, so it was strange to try and go between these horses, but there does look half a gap there, and Tremezina shuts it. Another dead end comes through, and then runs up to Heels Lake. He went from basically he was in front of So Willie in the run to a length behind it to 4 or 5 behind it, and losing all momentum. Only gets beat 2.7, so he does look certainly beat. But be wary that that's with everything in his favour. That really, he had a good setup for the race. He had great pace on. He had everything to go for him there, much like the winner has. The winner's obviously going to go around under the odds next start, and so probably will Divine Style, because people will overplay that. The runs from the race that were very good were More Than Fabulous, who's taken control of the race after sitting just behind a fast pace. classic uniform who sat outside a ruthless pace, at a tough part in his preparation with a gap between runs. Again, you'd want 3 weeks probably at least between runs to see him race at his top. That's got to take something out of him. Triple Snitsu's had nothing go right. He's right there. Supply and Demand's even not a bad run. Neither Seagame Solon has tracked these, but these are the 2 horses that I think have run really well and are right to go at their next run if they give them plenty of time to get over this. And the horses I'd be very wary of, So Willie massively. It's basically One Lotto and Dubai Style, who may be overplayed because of that run, and Surf and Safari even. It's just sort of picked up the pieces and lobbed into a 6th position that may be a little bit overplayed. Plenty in that race. Race 7, and it looked like Kentucky Dane was the soft leader here. Some great tactics shown by Baker Yard with Pena on board to take control of the race. They have gone out fairly quick, and that's just to show that the pattern
And the other English
was tough to make ground on this day because of the bog circuit, the bog track. So she's shown that she's stronger. She's obviously improved from that first up run, and great tactics, especially like there was a lot of distance queries in this race, and horses not at the right part of their preparation, which made it really tough. But once she sprung to the front, the race was basically over after 50 metres. I was surprised that Kentucky Dane was grabbed hold of early, which sort of allowed Pena to slide across, and she's in a position here where basically her hands are tied, and she made a good decision to go to the front. And more importantly, doesn't grab hold once she gets there, just allows the horse to roll, which takes the sting out of the other horses and keeps her comfortable on the surface. Horse that are relatively keen on here was a horse called Consign. Definitely a race in him, I think. Probably back on a dry track would be better. It may be tough to find this time of year now. But he runs fairly credibly, considering he's had a gap between runs and only a trial. I think this horse is going very well, Fig Tree, but this was just not a suitable race. She's handled this race perfectly, Pena, and basically got the race wrapped up. Consign battles away well with Metallic Crown, and Fig Tree's just out in his feet but trying hard. Kentucky Dane first up has run fairly well, so again not a lot to be learned. I think the conditions definitely suited the winner in the ride. The conditions probably suited Metallic Crown. Looking at his record, he's improved a bit on what he has been doing. I don't think conditions suited Consign, so this is a pretty solid run, and he can improve off it. Pass marks to these 3 who weren't suited, especially if Fig Tree goes back in trip and he gets a bit drier a surface, sort of around the 1300 metre mark on a dry track. I think he'll be just about winning. And Kentucky Dane's on track for probably longer. Hasn't had too tough a run there, which is good, considering it was only his first up run. Another race where tactics sort of played out in the end. It was a bit surprising considering how fast they've gone that Foreign Prince kept going, but he had Loophole chasing him second up. Very Delicious, who was a distance query, getting to it for the first time. Tales of Grim similar, and then some horses that were out of form or not suited in this race. So he's probably just found the right race at the right time, even though he was stepping up in trip quite sharply. High Midnap, probably the disappointing runner, chasing the leader and never really looking like getting it, and beaten quite comfortably at the end.
on for the first time, Black.
And again, Pena does a good job to get the horse in front. Strange Ride Goldstream. Why it was up challenging for the front, I've got no idea. I know at this stage you sort of think it's setting it up for High Midnight Loophole, who have the colt sit. Tales of Grim, they've all had their chance in the run, the ones behind. All in sort of that zone that you want it to be in on this day, up near the front. You don't want to be having to make too much ground, but Panya just keeps the horse comfortable in front. Doesn't restrain it too heavily, just allows it to bowl. And again, never really looks like getting headed, except when maybe Berry Delicious chimes in late, but they've had to spend so much petrol to make up that ground on this track that the leader just out-toughs them a bit. And again, there's just not much to be learned here. These horses are all good enough runs. Maybe Berry Delicious back slightly in trip on a bit drier. Loophole's ready for a bit longer, or something similar. The winner's obviously going to go to something similar and be competitive. Back to a mile might even be better. Anywhere where he can find the front on soft conditions. Tales of Grim, less is more. High Midnight, all fair enough. High Midnight a little bit disappointing here. More than a little bit probably. Jaguar second up, fair enough. Casino Dancer not suited, and Ghost Protocol's just enigmatic type. I'm not sure what to make of Goldstream. Lucky Last. And
The track with it.
another race where there didn't look too many chances because of conditions. Very surprised that Incostonati was heavily backed, considering it was first up from a year off on this sort of a track. $7.50 was very short. Ellart was a bit disappointing. McCreary first up. It was just a really strange betting move into $5, going to get back, and didn't have many credentials to be that short as far as I could see. Slidini, Magical Stance, heavily backed, even back monks, but wet track suited. Paint was always going to get the right run, which it did, and obviously started a heavily backed favourite. And I was surprised Grand Punto probably got out to backable odds late, or did get out to backable odds late. I thought it would be one of the ones that would sort of end up around the $5 mark. But Huey gets it into the race just at the right time. It sustains a strong run, and is a good win. So another race where they go pretty solid up front. The winner's back here. See what happens to him at the start. He flops out of the gates, so adds more merit to his effort here. Magical Stance back with him. Paint lobs right in the perfect challenging position off the two horses that are one a distance query and the other one first up from a spell. Thrill Seeking doesn't get the trip, especially under these conditions. It's probably his maximum trip on a dry surface with things in his favour. Allard lobs in a good enough spot. Medal similar. McCreary. Here's Grand Punto. Like it's a big win this, considering where he takes off. Take note that Adkins sort of just sits here on Magical Stance when he could have easily been tagging this horse into the race. He would have got a free trail, and I've got absolutely no idea why he's sitting back here doing nothing. Slidini, in a similar way, why they're not taking advantage of Huey taking off and trying to get into this race, I've got no idea. If you like, Grand Punto's come from behind Magical Stance and now put 4 on him probably. Hard to tell from this angle, but it's a significant move, at least probably 4, and at the end of the race. So Paint comes through, gets the right run. These horses are all fainting. Grand Punto's trying to sustain that run. Allart's had its chance, and these two grinding home down the outside. It's only had the one run. Magical Stance was first up from a spell. Probably peaks on his run late. I really think this horse should have been in the finish. Big tracks this horse early. I think even though he does look to knock up a little late, pretty average ride for mine. Thrill Seeking's a good run to hold on, and no, nothing wrong with any of these horses here. Alart's probably the one with the fitness base behind it that's a little bit disappointing. So big strong win from Grand Punto. Obviously loves the wet, but to sustain that run, it's a great effort. Paint every possible chance, but probably just tested a little bit, obviously by the quality of the race. Magical Stance is an underrated horse. It's run very well and probably should have been in the finish. And Slydini's Honest done well. McCreary, it's obviously an improving horse, just wasn't suited here, so I wouldn't be worried about it. I think Thrill Seeking will be ready. 2 or 3 weeks between runs, back to 1100 on a dry surface. Look out for her. And Freeze the Charger's probably similar, ready to win now. Just it was not at all suited there. Costonati's obviously not pulled up too well. So that's the meeting. A few to follow and a few races where there might be a few that are overplayed, so I'd be very wary of the form going forward, especially from a positive sense. I'd be trying to, hope that these horses get a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks between runs minimum, to allow them to race at their best, but there are quite a few that can improve out of the meeting, so hopefully that helps everyone. Cheers.